Apple Watch sales ban is put on hold by U.S. appeals court. U.S. extends tariff exclusions on some Chinese categories till May 31st. Oil jumps over 2% amid Red Sea vessel attacks. Indian Navy to deploy guided missile destroyer after strike off its coast. China warns rocket remnants to hit South China Sea. Russia says Ukraine's strike damaged warship in Crimean port. Japan may put first astronaut on moon under U.S. Artemis project. No embassy staff hurt in blast near Israeli mission in Delhi.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Thursday, December 28th, and here are your top stories. Apple Inc. won a court ruling temporarily pausing a U.S. sales ban on its newest smartwatches, giving the company a reprieve in a patent fight that had forced the devices off the market and threatened an estimated $17 billion business. An appellate court in Washington issued the interim stay Wednesday, a day after Apple sought a delay of the decision by the U.S. International Trade Commission, which had blocked the import and sale of the Apple Watch Series 9 and Ultra 2.
The court gave the commission until January 10 to respond to Apple's request for a longer stay during the company's appeal of the ITC's order. The ITC had argued against the interim stay of its order, saying in a Tuesday court filing that Apple didn't face irreparable harm during its appeal because sales of some watch models continued. Apple was forced to stop sales of one of its signature products after the ITC found the company infringed a pair of patents from medical device maker Masimo Corp. Related to measuring blood oxygen saturation.
The Office of U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai on Tuesday announced a further extension of China's Section 301 tariff exclusions on 352 Chinese imports and 77 COVID-19 related categories till May 31st, 2024. The import tariff exclusions include industrial components such as pumps and electric motors, some car parts and chemicals, bicycles and vacuum cleaners. The COVID-related exclusions include medical products like face masks, examination gloves, and hand sanitizing wipes.
Tai's office said in a statement the exclusions were previously scheduled to expire on December 31st. The extension till May 31st will allow for further consideration under a statutory 4-year review. Trump imposed tariffs in 2018 and 2019 on thousands of imports from China valued at some $370 billion at the time, after a Section 301 investigation found that China was misappropriating U.S. intellectual property and coercing U.S. companies to transfer sensitive technology to do business.
Oil climbed more than 2% on Tuesday to its highest level this month as further attacks on ships in the Red Sea prompted fears of shipping disruptions and on hopes of interest rate cuts that could boost economic growth and fuel demand. Brent crude futures settled $2 or 2.5% higher at $81.07 a barrel after rising as much as 3.4% during the session. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude rose by $2.01 or 2.7% to $75.57. The rally added to last week's gains of about 3% after healthy attacks on ships worried investors.
However, according to Reuters reports, despite concern about the Middle East and the rerouting of ships, actual supply has not yet been affected. Reuters said oil also found support from expectations the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates next year. Lower interest rates cut consumer borrowing costs, which can boost economic growth and oil demand. According to the CME Group's Fed Watch, Tool Traders bets that the central bank will deliver a rate cut of at least 25 basis points in March 2024 stand at 86%.
The Indian Navy will deploy guided missile destroyer ships in the Arabian Sea as a deterrent after a merchant vessel was struck off the Indian coast over the weekend. The Indian Navy said, considering the recent spate of attacks in the Arabian Sea, the Indian Navy has deployed guided missile destroyers, INS Marugal and INS Kochi, in various areas to maintain a deterrent presence. The Navy was investigating the nature of the attack on the vessel, MV Chem Pluto, which docked in Mumbai on Monday.
The Indian Defense Minister said on Tuesday that the government had taken the drone attack on MV Chem Pluto and an earlier attack on commercial crude oil vessel MV Sai Baba, in the Red Sea, very seriously. He said, the Indian Navy has increased its surveillance of the seas. We shall find whoever is responsible for this attack and strict action will be taken against them. The Pentagon said on Saturday that a drone launched from Iran struck the MV Chem Pluto in the Indian Ocean.
China warned that remnants of a rocket would hit an area in the South China Sea on Tuesday, following the sixth deployment of its most powerful launch vehicle 11 days ago. The China Maritime Safety Administration said rocket debris, which generally burns up in the atmosphere on re-entry, is expected to fall off the coast of China's island province of Hainan between 11 a.m. and noon local time. China launched a Long March 5 rocket on December 15th from Hainan's Wenchang launch site.
The Long March 5 mission earlier this month successfully launched what Chinese state media described as a high-orbit optical remote sensing satellite. Xinhua news agency said the fairing of the payload atop the rocket was 18.5 meters, far longer than the usual 12.267 meters, suggesting an unusually large satellite. The unusual payload has sparked guesses that it is a high-altitude satellite that would hold above the Earth at a fixed location, allowing it to peer down continuously at a certain region from its perch.
Russia said a warship at the eastern Crimean port of Feodosia had been damaged in a Ukrainian missile strike that targeted a fleet used to launch attacks on Ukrainian cities. Ukraine's air defense said on Telegram it attacked the Novocherkassk in Feodosia, Crimea, with cruise missiles around 2:30 a.m. local time. Crimea has been the target of Ukrainian drone and missile attacks for months. Last month, Ukrainian missiles struck a vessel at a shipyard in Kerch on the Crimean Peninsula.
In September, Ukraine hit another shipyard on the western coast of the peninsula, damaging 2 Navy vessels. Shortly after that, Ukraine struck the headquarters of the Russian Black Sea Fleet in the port city of Sevastopol. A series of successful attacks on Russian military ships allowed Ukraine to open an alternative path to export grain by the Black Sea after Russia pulled out from a deal. Ukraine has shipped 10 million tons of commodities, mostly grains, through the passage since August.
Nikkei Asia reported that Japan and the U.S. are finalizing plans to send the first Japanese astronaut to the moon as part of the NASA-led Artemis lunar exploration project. The two governments are expected to sign a document as soon as January that covers cooperation regarding activities on the moon's surface. Sources familiar with the matter say the U.S. is willing to offer at least one Japanese astronaut the opportunity to land on the moon during an Artemis mission in light of Japan's contribution to the project.
The Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency selected 2 new astronaut candidates, Makoto Suwa and Ayu Yaneda, for crewed exploration in February 2023. Japan aims to become the second country, after the U.S., to place an astronaut on the moon in the latter half of the 2020s. In a U.S. National Space Council meeting on Wednesday, Vice President Kamala Harris announced plans to have an international astronaut land on the moon in the 2020s. The Artemis project intends to provide opportunities for women and people of color.
Indian authorities said an explosion near the Israeli embassy in New Delhi on Tuesday did not kill or wound any staff members, adding that investigations into its cause were ongoing. Israeli embassy spokesperson Guy Nur told Reuters, "We can confirm that around 5:20 p.m. there was a blast at close proximity to the embassy," adding the local police and security teams were investigating. An official involved in the investigation told Reuters nothing had been found in the search operation 3 hours after the blast.
Israeli missions around the world have been on alert amid a rise in anti-Semitic attacks since Israel launched its counter-offensive against Hamas militants in the Gaza Strip. Israel's National Security Council said in a statement issued by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office, the blast may have been an attack. There was no information suggesting anyone on the street had been hurt. Officials were still inspecting the area, but it had been reopened to the general public.
The answer for yesterday was C, safeguard. The leaflet explains how to safeguard against dangers in the home. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of China warns rocket remnants to hit South China Sea. Number 1, remnant. 残余部分, 剩余部分. The woods are remnants of a huge forest which once covered the whole area. Number 2, deployment. 部署、展开、调度，来自于动词 deploy. For example, the Defense Department decided to deploy a new missile system. Number 3, optical, 视力的、视觉的、光学的。A sensor channels the light signal along an optical fiber. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comments section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune into Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.